NOS4A2.
What is up, everyone, and welcome to our NOS4A2 recap show that I am now calling NOS Recap 2. We figured out a title in the final episode of the season, so there you go. I guess we can take that moving forward. Anyways, this is the show where we break down the latest episode of the latest AMC series based on the book by Joe Hill. I am one of your hosts, as always, Griffin Schiller, and I'm joined by my co-host, Mr. Mike Johnson of Real School. Mike, why did you have to ruin such a great first take? This is our second take doing the intro.
What are you talking about? This is the first fresh take. That was the first time I've
not
heard
first take. No.
NOS Recap 2. It was brilliant.
It lost its humor. You ruined it.
It lost its humor with us. I don't know what our audience is
going to think. Yeah, I guess that's true.
It,
yeah, but I feel like me saying it kind of like I didn't feel it as much this time. Like, I felt it the first time, man. And then you were just like, I mean, I asked you how you liked the name, and I got no response. You're like, well, you're glitching out here, man. And I'm like, dude, you are perfectly fine on my end. I have no idea what you're talking about.
The computer hated your pun. My computer, my internet service was just like, nope, that's it, man. Sorry, cut off.
Yeah, well, anyways, what do you think of NOS Recap 2? I feel like
it's still making me laugh, though.
I'm telling you, I think we have to go with it. It just makes the most sense. Anyone listening to our loyal fans, let us know your thoughts and opinions on NOS Recap 2 down in the comment section below. We would love to hear your thoughts on that. But anyways, we got a jam-packed episode for you here because even though there are 2 episodes left to discuss in the season, meaning episode 9 and episode 10, they were aired as a 2-part finale, so we're not going to do 2 separate episodes. We're just going to give you one big episode, because what's the point, you know? We're going to go deep into both episodes, and there'll probably be some overlap, but you all watched it as one giant conglomerate, and if you watched it on AMC Premiere, you're just waiting for us to get to the end, so we're just like, you know what, we'll just, get down to it and give you one beefy episode, and then finish off with our overall thoughts for the season, and where we hope the show can go down the road in season 2, because of course it was renewed for a second season, which I'm very happy about. So the first episode we're going to be talking about is episode number 9, which is titled Slay House. This is the penultimate episode, and boy, did it deliver on the penultimate drama that a penultimate episode you would want out of a penultimate episode, I guess you should say, or I should say. So let's get right into this thing. Mike, what were your overall thoughts of Slay House?
Really good, man. And I mean, you had messaged me right after you watched it. I remember that because you beat me to it, and you had said this was the episode I was waiting for.
Yes, it was.
And so I was absolutely intrigued, and I'm going, okay. So, and you're right, it didn't disappoint at all, and set up the finale, even though it's kind of a 2-parter, like you had mentioned, really well. Some really good, intrigue and adventure and excitement and horror, and yeah, it was definitely, they were saving up for this one, and it was a lot of fun for sure.
Yeah, as Mike just said, this was the episode I've been waiting for the entire season. I had a feeling it was either going to be episode 9 or episode 10, leaning a bit towards 9 because it felt like a penultimate kind of drama episode, and yeah, it really didn't disappoint. Now, granted, the scene in the book where Vic goes to, I guess this is like Charlie Manx's like old house or something like that. The Slay House, as they're calling it. Granted, in the book, I thought it was a bit scarier. But I mean, maybe that had to do with just like my imagination running wild, or the way the audiobook it was narrated. But I thought it was a bit scarier in the book, but the way that they translated it to television definitely didn't disappoint. I felt the stakes, I felt the intensity. I thought Ashley Cummings was unbelievable in this episode in particular. Well, really in both episodes, but in this episode when she's like struggling to get out of the house as it's on fire. I mean, my God, you really feel this this girl's just like every ounce of her being drained, and she has to do everything to get out. And so it was a very powerful moment. Yeah, no, this is definitely my favorite episode of the season. I probably could have told you it would have been my favorite episode of the season going in, because it's one of my favorite parts of the book. So yeah, it delivered on everything I could have hoped for in terms of an adaptation of that particular scene. But let's get into specifics now. The way this works, if you are new to the show, is Mike usually takes us through the episode, and we stop along the way to discuss the parts that we found the most interesting, giving you guys our breakdown of the entire episode. So I'm going to pass it over to Mike to take us through Slay House.
Well, and the other funny thing I'll mention is that if you've never watched our show before, you know that sometimes my recaps get a little jumbled, where I'm just like, and then there was this part, and then Griffin will remind me of things. It's going to be like that too, because this is a double episode that we're covering. So big, it's going to be like, am I talking about 10 or am I talking about 9? But anyway, stick with us, because we'll get through it. What I loved about this right off the bat in episode 9 was the teaser. So before the credits, what do we see? We see an empty closet. We're inside the closet. We see a baseball bat sticking up. We hear a motorbike pull up. We see Craig open the door, takes the bat. We know exactly what he's going to go do.
Fucking Walks Craig, past man.
That was awesome, right? It was such a great hero moment. And, we've been silently cheering for this guy all season, even though, the first half of the season, I think we were talking about it. We're like, we know he's going to end, or she's going to end up with this guy, but he's a good guy. And we never really mentioned him by name, but, and then eventually we're like, yes, Craig, yes, the heart of this thing is Craig, really.
Yeah, here's the thing about Craig. I like the guy. I think what he did was stupid. But I got his intentions. I was like, dog, you are not gonna make it out alive. But then again, that's just maybe the cynic in me, just ragging on him for no reason. But yeah, I mean, Craig's a good guy. He's a good guy.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. So grabs the bat, walks past his mom. His mom says, "Where are you going?" He says, "I'm gonna go kill that bastard." He's going after Bing. It was great. I love it. And then so they struggle, because he does get into Bing's house, right? Yeah. They struggle. He lands some good blows. Looks like he might win the fight. You don't know, but of course Bing is like a powerhouse. You're not going to beat that guy. All we see, though, before we really, cut away, is that the bat gets scooped up during the melee in the kitchen, and then somebody gets hit, and there's some blood splatter.
Yeah.
So now the funny thing is, yeah, exactly. There's no real tension, right, with that part, unfortunately, just because they kind of move the episode along really quickly.
Yeah.
So we see very shortly after that Bing is the one who is the victor, obviously. But before that, we get a little bit of Vic and Maggie together. Maggie seems to be recovering still from her almost, deadly drug overdose the episode before. She throws up, and then you see Vic say, "Hey, are you okay?" And there's no answer. And then Vic turns around, and then we get our lovely Millie Manx again, this mystery succubus that we had been talking about. We weren't sure who she was, or, they had mentioned her name. I think one of our fans had mentioned in the comment section, they did say Millie at one point that I guess we missed. So then here she is in all her goth glory. She looks like she just bought her outfit at Hot Topic. She's got a sword for some reason, and she's pointing the sword, and she's threatening Vic, and we're like, okay, well, what just happened? And of course, it's one of those dream sequences, right? So she's reading into things and all this kind of stuff. So Maggie kind of brings her back. They chat a little bit, and then we get to the point with them. They know that something bad has happened with Craig.
Yeah,
right?
because I think it's because of her tiles, right?
That's right.
Yeah, she checks the tiles and such. But it was nice to get that moment or that scene between Maggie and Vic, kind of recovering, because Vic, I believe in the scene even reveals she was like, I had no idea you were going through this sort of thing, and you get kind of a genuine heart-to-heart moment. You get a better one towards the end of episode 10 that we'll wait for when we talk about that, but I thought that was a nice moment. And then also we see how Maggie is kind of getting back into the swing of using her tiles and doing the thing because of what happened to Joe, right? His name's Joe.
Right. Yeah. The sheriff.
Yeah. And so you see how that affects her, and then after like Vic kind of learns that Craig has been taken, shit goes down. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know.
And I love the first meeting between, well, I'll get to that. So yeah, as we see that Bing was the victor because he's got his car kind of loaded up and you can tell there's something going on, and he's meeting
this scene is great. Yeah.
It was really good, you know, and once again, I think I mean, we've talked about Bing all season. We've talked about Oliver, right, being a really solid actor in this part. And, of course, we love our Quinto. So, you know, the two of them are talking, and Quinto's going on about, like, you have always been on the naughty list. Like, you know, you'll be lucky if you get off this, you know, all this kind of stuff. And Bing says, well, that's why I took the boy. And he's like, okay, well, what's going on? Like, explain this. And he's like,
it's like it's the first time we see Bing kind of protest, you know, Manx's like really you know, Manx has always like talked down to him, and so this is kind of like the first time where Bing is like really standing up for himself. He's like, well, you know, no, it's like, look what I've done. You know, I had her, and then she kind of lost. She went through my fingers, so I did what I should have done, which was got her boyfriend. So now we have leverage. And yeah, it's really, but that entire encounter, I just love like Manx just like not even caring. Like he's just like, you know what, screw you. I'm done with you. I'm going to get another henchman because you have just done nothing for me. But just been this bumbling idiot who won't listen to me. So, you know, he's like, just like, yeah, like he's talking down to him. He's throwing insults. And so that whole exchange, I really quite enjoyed from both character standpoints.
Yeah.
And then we also have the kid in the back. And this kid's going to become important later on, but you see him, he's already transformed into one of those demon vampire children.
Yeah, Bradley. Yeah. And this kid, I got to be honest. So this kid, a little of this kid went a long way.
Yeah.
But they used him, and I think, like you were just touching on that, more effectively than they had with any of the other demon children.
Yeah,
right.
I agree.
Where he actually, he played a part, and he's bigger too. Like he's probably 12 at least, right?
Yeah.
So there's something about it which is actually a little threatening, right? Like we get creeped out by like creepy 7-year-olds, but realistically, even if they're demons, you can probably just kick them off, right? So, but this kid actually seemed like a physical threat.
Right.
Yeah. Right. So before we get to him, because he is in the back and he is in pretty much this entire episode, we see Craig is tied up in the back, right? Because Manx wants Bing to explain what's going on. Craig's tied up. And I love that exchange, and it kind of reminded me because of what you just said about why did he go after Bing? Why did Craig bother doing this?
Yeah.
And Charlie asks him, and they're such a good, like, they're both really good actors. And we've never mentioned him by name. Dalton Herod is the guy who plays Craig.
Yeah, he's
great job, Dalton. That scene is brilliant because Manx is just grilling him, and he's like, dear boy, like, what are you thinking? You know, like, you're coming after this guy, you're coming after me, like, what are you going to get right? And there's just a moment of silence, and immediately Manx is like, you're in love.
Well, he's
good acting, man.
Like I think Craig also says like I love her, and then Manx kind of gets a weird like look on his face, and he's like, did you consummate it? And it's like this is this is like the breaking point for him. He's like, well, if they have, then she's dead. If they haven't, then there's still hope. But then he like he kind of looks at her, and I don't think he says anything. And then Manx like realizes that they have, and it's like his entire like lusting like thing. It kind of reminded me of Judge Frollo in The Hunchback a little bit. It was like kind of like he's like, oh well, someone else has tainted her, so she can't be the mother of these kids, and you're like such an unworthy peasant to you know, be her lover or whatever. You poisoned her mind and such. And that was like the thing that Bing was trying to show Manx. You know, he was like, oh, look, she's got drugs, she's got well, he said rubbers, but condoms. And like I loved how he said that too. He kind of like whispered it, like he was like so ashamed of saying it. And then Manx is like, what are you talking about? And then after that conversation with Craig, he's like, all right, Bing, you've earned my trust once again, and we're gonna kill Vic McQueen.
Yeah, and that was great. And so off they go,
Yeah.
because then now they, and he says to Bing, like, I need you to go get more gingerbread gas. But he takes Craig, puts, and he's like, off we go, right?
Yeah.
And so some really good setup there. We go back to Vic and Maggie, and like we had mentioned, they realize something's really gone wrong with Craig. So Maggie uses her tiles, says, where is he? He's not dead, which is good because it just says the Wraith.
Mm-hmm.
She's like, great, we can go after him. That's it. And then, of course, we need that little, can the brat find the Wraith?
Yeah.
I'll say yes.
Can she
and then
is she
the
ready?
brat ready? That's right.
Yeah. Is
and it
she
says
ready?
no.
Yeah.
I did find that line that Vic says kind of funny, where because Maggie's trying to talk her out of it. She's like, the tiles are never wrong. You're going to get killed if you try this. And she's like, maybe it was on, like game on. And I was like,
I know. I was like, well, it just kind of showed like the mental state of someone who's like so desperate that she just wants like confirmation that she's doing the right thing. So like, I get it. But yeah, I agree. It was kind of silly, but it didn't like detract from anything.
No. And so she's got a plan, because she loads up her bike with a jerry can of gas, and she's like, I've seen Jolene take him out. If I take out the car, I know I can do this. Maggie's trying to talk her out of it, but obviously the plot needs to move forward. So of course she goes.
Is that what happens in episode 9 or episode 10?
That's 9. It's got to be 9 because she goes after him, and she would have had the gas on the back. Right. Yeah. We're good.
Okay, but
because
she loses her bike.
I know what you're thinking.
Okay, all right, never mind. No, yes, you're 100% right, because she doesn't even use the canister when. Yeah, okay, no, you're right.
That's
now
right.
I'm the one getting mixed up. Oh, jeez.
So she gets to the sleigh house. So she's in Colorado. She doesn't know she's in Colorado, but she's all the way there.
Yeah.
And she sees kind of an opening, right? She doesn't see the Wraith or anything. She just kind of knows it's a house in the middle of nowhere. So she knows this is where Craig has to be. So she's kind of sneaking.
Did she see the Christmas ornaments on the trees? Yeah,
that's right. Yeah,
so that's kind of like the first indication. Yeah,
absolutely right. So she's kind of sneaking around. She leaves her bike behind, right, and then she goes towards the house. And I think, is that the first moment that Bradley comes out and kind of scares her? Right?
No. So she goes into the shed or the garage or whatever. I'm going to call it a shed because I think it is a shed, and that's where the Wraith is parked. Because she goes in there to check and see if Craig's in there. Which of course he is, and so I believe she's trying to break him out, and like the kid is like totally taunting her the whole time, and then like she can't get him out, and the Wraith like opens up, and the kid like comes out and starts chasing after her and starts like trying to like kill her.
Right. Yeah. So a good moment where, she does kick him off. Ironically, I was just talking about kicking off.
Yeah, no, she does. Yeah. Is that right before she gets into the house, or is that a little bit?
Exactly.
Okay.
Right before. Yeah. So again, he is more menacing than any of these other demon children. Like, we know that Haley in that one episode ate the woman, which I found we loved. That's a great moment.
Oh, dude, that's still like one of the best moments of the entire first season. Yeah.
Yeah. But they never, they killed Joe. We saw that. But to me, it was like, it was a little gimmicky, or it was a little, I don't want to say corny, but it was just like, it was a little silly, right? That's in the book, right? But it is a little bit silly. Sure. So, this was the first time I'm going, oh, demon kids actually can be little demons and like hurt her.
Well, here's the thing. It's like in the book, I believe that kid is actually the first kid that gets abducted.
Okay.
So it's like, because that kid is like, they kind of like are messing around with him, and you kind of like see his transformation in the book, and then like when Vic gets trapped in the house, I believe he is the one that's kind of like taunting her and chasing after her, and really like he is the creepiest part about this whole exchange, because he's like popping up through windows, he's trying to break through the doors and stuff like that. And you get a little bit of that in this scene here, but it wasn't as like scary as it was in the book, because the kid was just ultimately like just a kid that just was like hopped up on, I don't know, like Mountain Dew or something like that.
PCP, right.
Well, that's exactly right. So, but I will say it was suspenseful. It wasn't scary. It was suspenseful. And, especially when he's like chasing her, because just like how quick he is, and like he's like turned into this like demon child, and so you're like, oh fuck, Vic, get in the house, and you're just like, ugh! And like that was like one of the things that I really like that they were able to capture from the book as well, was that sense of urgency.
Yeah. So key moment after she's trapped in the house, because obviously Bradley's outside. So all of a sudden we get this great shot, by the way, of Manx walking towards the house. Nice long shot, and he's just kind of walking, and she's like, oh crap, here he is. And he finds her knife, finds the bike, right? Takes the gas can off, and he sees her bridge.
Before that, though, her walking through the house while the Christmas music is playing on repeat is really well done. And I like how she's like going through, like, searching the drawers for like knives, and like the kids popping up in the window, and he's trying to like freak her out and stuff. And and then she like kind of like goes to the front of the door, and she looks out the window, and then you're right. Then there's the thing where Max like comes across that great shot, and then him with the bike is awesome.
Yeah. Because he sees, her shorter way. He sees the bridge, he sees the knife. And so he starts taunting her, and he's like, my girl, like, all these things could have happened this way, but here we are. And now you're just screwed, basically. Yeah. And I love just picks up the bike and chucks it. And then that's it, right? Just right in the bridge,
just like, see ya.
Which closes it. Yep. See ya. That's it. He knew exactly what was going to happen. Yeah. And it kind of really debilitates Vic for a second, right?
Yeah, this is another great moment from Ashley Cummings, who just like in that moment, she's like, I fucked up. She's like, I am in way over my head right now. And so then you start to see a little bit of that self-doubt creep in, because she also saw the tiles, and it's like, is the brat ready for this? No. And so like she's got that looming over her head. And I just think, like, I mean, this episode in general is really well acted by her, but there's like little moments where you just see her like after something has happened, and she's just like, oh my God. So I thought that was a great moment from her. You really sense her despair. And then Manx comes walking up to the house, very, he's just kind of strolling along. He's taking his time, toying with his prey, if you will.
Right.
And he opens, like, she kind of locks the door, and like he comes through, and like she's like hiding in this other side of the room, and like he walks in, and like you don't know whether they're in the same room or she's like hiding behind a wall or something, and then or if like he is like in another room or whatnot. And so the music stops, and then like the tension is like you could cut the tension with a knife, no pun intended, at that point in time. And then like she just she has to kind of like find her way out, and she like and eventually finds her way into the laundry room. She has to board up, and then that's where she gets stuck.
Right. So he's got the gas can, dunks it all over, right? He takes his time, though, too, which, again, I really like you said, stalking. Yeah. He doesn't light it right away either, right? He makes a trail with the gas, and then he kind of goes out, and he's like, should I do this? This kind of thing. Yeah. He does. And then, so we're pretty close to the end of the 9th episode at this point, because it leaves off some pretty good tense scenes. I think the most tense anyways. Yeah. And again, we keep going back to it, but we love Ashley Cummings in the show. Oh God, and more importantly, I don't think I haven't seen a young actor definitely do this better. She just does suffering really well.
I know.
Right?
Like, my
God. She does crying really well. She does a lot in the show. She has to cough. She has to cry. She has to like have migraines. It's like, does this stuff happen to Ashley? Because she like really does it convincingly, right?
She does.
And it's just a great hero moment for her, right? Where she has to kind of rise up. She has to find a way out. The laundry room all of a sudden starts to get engulfed, right? Obviously, she can't get out the front door. Right. She can't break the little tiny like basement windows that they have. She has to go through the ventilation system, which I found a little convenient because if it was like an attic space, I would have bought it. But I was like, there's a ventilation system. I was like, I don't know.
That was a little homage to Die Hard.
It did. It was definitely Die Hard.
So which I kind of like that a lot, actually.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh yeah, wait, and actually before Manx leaves, he like takes the drawing on his fridge of him and Millie. Just like another little Millie Easter egg that was planted in there that we haven't really resolved yet, but I'm assuming is going to be resolved in future seasons. But so no, I love that entire that is some of the most like emotionally raw and just powerful scenes out of the entire season thus far. And like, yeah, you're right. She goes up and then she falls back down, and like, my God, she's like having a crisis because the flames are about to engulf her and everything, and she doesn't know what to do. She has to save Craig, and then they get like, you know, the little voiceovers over like, you're nothing, like blah. And then she just like she summons the strength to persevere, of course, as we
it's like a Rocky moment.
Oh, you know, yeah, it's great. I love it. It was really well executed, and it was incredible acting from Ashley Cummings. There's only one other moment in this 2-part finale where I thought her performance like topped that. And we'll get to that a little bit later on, but like that is just some really solid stuff there. So yeah, she gets in the ventilation system and she crawls her way out. And I love the shot of her opening the window and just like sticking her head out. I mean, my God, like her eyes are like wide. She's got like the rash still going on, and she's like just it's like she's made it, but she's like so close to passing out. Like she is
Yeah. And so her struggles continue even though she got out of the house. She stumbles down, you know, the roof, right, to get to the lower level. She's hurt her leg, but she can escape. So she starts to wander through the woods.
Actually, this is now going into episode 10.
It's 10.
Yeah, this is the trend, because you're right. That is the last, like, she sees Manx with Craig and the kid kind of like going off.
That's right.
And so, yeah, before we move into 10, which is actually really interesting because episode 9 was the shortest episode of the season, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
Which I get because it's literally just that sleigh house sequence. And I know we've kind of like, I guess, breezed through it a little bit. A lot of it is just like, you know, there's not... Like, it's pretty straightforward. And a lot of it is just something while you're watching it, you're experiencing the tension, the incredible acting, the suffering, the, you know, Manx mannerisms and whatnot. And so, like, episode 9 for me was just a very, like, engaging, experiential episode. And for me, because the tension was so high, because the stakes were so well realized, because the performances really sold me on everything, it ended up being my favorite episode of the entire season.
Right.
I can't praise this episode enough. The writing, the acting, the direction, just like some of the creative choices, it was all top notch. And this was a very tight episode, I will say, compared to some of the other ones where we have storylines going in different directions now. Like, I understand they got to start wrapping stuff up towards the end of the season, so of course the latter episodes are going to be a little bit more concise than like previous episodes, I guess. But like this one to me was just perfect from a show making standpoint. Right.
Yeah. Well said. Yeah. And as we get into 10. It's funny because, you know, you talking about how quote unquote tight the episode is. I felt like 10 was tight, but also crammed, for lack of a better term.
That was a little crammed. I really didn't. I didn't think it was that bad. I mean, yeah, they had to wrap some stuff up, but it was like, to me, this felt like your typical season finale. You wrap up the threads that needed to be wrapped up, but obviously the gate is still open because you're going to be doing more stories in, you know, seasons to come. And this is a show that still has story left to tell. Like, by the end of this season, I'm like, well, this isn't just like a one season kind of show.
Yeah,
like,
you need a little bit more.
It's a little bit like It, you know? It's like, so she defeated her childhood demons, and the next time we see her, she's going to be a little bit more grown up and more mature. But I do want to give a shout out to Thomas Brady, who wrote episode number 9, and then Hanel Culpepper, who directed it. I thought both of them were at the top of their game, really delivering some exhilarating, thrilling television. So I really appreciated that.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So yes, on to 10. So 10 is entitled.
Oh yeah. You were gonna go for it. Oh yeah. I was gonna say 10 is called Gun Barrel, which is kind of funny because that's the name of the town. right?
That's right.
Yeah.
And we've been in this town, right? We've seen this town several times, and a lot of the action that takes place in familiar things that they've set up throughout the season.
Yeah.
So as Vic escapes, right, she makes her way out. We see another kind of badass bike go by right as she's at the road, and then our new hero who stops to help her out couldn't have been less badass, but still awesome.
I loved him, dude.
Great character, right?
Yeah,
so this is Zach is the new character, is that right?
I believe so. Yeah, I got to double check on that. But as you're going through it, and you know, I didn't do my due diligence. I forgot to.
Sorry, it's Lou. Because I can remember. Yeah, because Manx repeats his name like all the time. It's Lou. Sorry.
Okay. Yeah.
Keep going, sorry, buddy. I totally interrupted you there.
Oh no. I was saying you keep going. This is everyone. This is very, you know, casual and whatnot. I was gonna say you keep going. I'm going to look up the actor who plays him because I want to give him a shout out because he was great.
Awesome.
And I forgot to look him up. As always, you know, we suck with the names, and whatnot. But anyways,
I came back around on Lou. Yeah. So Lou is our new guy, and Lou is, I mean, like all these kids who are riding these bikes, right? They look pretty badass, and they've all got the leather thing, and they got kind of the street tough going on. And Lou could be like, he's so far separated from that, and yet he's arguably one of the most heroic people we've met in a very short amount of time, and I love it.
Jonathan Langdon is the guy who plays him. He's great.
So lovable. It was amazing. Yeah. So he agrees to help Vic almost immediately because he's like, "What is going on?" Right? And she's like, "Fire! Like I was trapped in here. He's got my boyfriend. He's gonna kill him. He's got this other little kid. He tried to light me, you know, on fire. Tried to burn me inside this house."
Yeah.
And he's like, "Okay, let's go." So they get on the bike, and you know, he's like, "We can't make a call. There's no cell, you know, whatever cell."
Yeah.
I want to say footage, not cell receivership.
There's no reception. Yeah.
Reception.
I think the thing that I liked most about her initial encounter with him is like he just trusts her. He's just like, you know, he sees the smoke of the burning house. He sees like how distraught she is and how like fucking out of her mind. I feel like if we had gotten the cop from before, the detective, like she would have been like, well, wait a second here. But you know, that was the thing that we forgot to mention is Maggie trying to work with the cop again and getting back into being the detective that she wanted to be and like doing the work, and like she shows the detective like her abilities. She's like, listen, there's some weird shit out there.
That's in 10 though, isn't it? That's in the second one? I'm almost positive.
I don't, like I said, everyone, these episodes kind of blur together, they overlap, but we'll just touch on it now anyways. So like, yeah, she's talking to the detective. She's like, listen, I can help. This is what's going on. And she explains the whole scenario. Like, there are people with abilities. I am one of them. I can show you. If you don't trust me, like, here you go. And then actually you are right. That is the next thing that happens because she sends them to the sleigh house, correct?
Right.
Yes.
And also that Maggie finds out where Bing is because we see that scene with Bing where he stands up to his boss because his boss is like, what the hell are you doing? He sees him loading up the gas and he's just like, I quit. And that's what's, I think the scariest Bing is when he's not the man-child mentally that we know him to be. Right? When he is like right out, like, yeah, I quit. There's something behind when he says I quit. You're like, oh man.
Oh
like,
yeah. I mean, like, you are not doing it justice. He like yells it. He is like ferocious.
Well, that's right after. Yeah. Because the boss is like, you think you can talk to me like that? And he's like, I said, yeah. It's really good. Yeah.
He's so unhinged and unpredictable. And that's what I love about his character, as we've expressed in every episode. But that's what I also love about Oliver's performance. Like, oh my God, he's just so good. Like,
yeah, for sure. Very convincing. Yeah, so, I mean, that is really good between Detective Hutter, who's the one who just never believes anything, and Maggie. Because now we've brought Hutter into the world, so we know going into season 2, we're going to have another ally, which is great. Yeah. Because she doesn't deny it. Like, she's always been like this the whole season. She's no nonsense. So when she sees this stuff, she's just like, okay, so I want to know how it works. And I love that line where Maggie's like, you really don't know. You don't want to know how it works. And she's like, I kind of do, actually. Yeah. So, yeah, she trusts her, which is great. They go after Bing. They're too late. Bing's already moved on, right?
Yeah, well, and the thing I love about that is it's like Maggie is kind of like she's I guess in memory of Joe, she's like pursuing the path that she's always wanted to, of being that detective. And we kind of assumed through some dialogue that she may have done that a little bit before in the past, but I guess her tiles kind of failed her a little bit. Right, this time, she's like kind of getting that redemption to honor Joe, and so I thought that was a great way to kind of like bring her arc full circle. I love that, and then we can see like moving forward that it's going to be her and what Detective Hutter.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So it's going to be those two working together to stop these horrible things from happening. So yeah, that was great stuff.
Yeah, and it's a good way to tie up that character, because I think, when Hutter was first introduced, you and I had talked about it, and we're like, God, she doesn't believe anything. Like,
I know.
You
Yeah,
always get that skeptical character, and you're like, oh, it's just so frustrating. So, no, and again, talk about arcs throughout the season. That was a nice way to bring her in. And I like that she didn't fight it, because, if it had happened 3 episodes before, we would have had that, like, she's like, you're crazy. Like, that's it. Lock her up, that kind of thing. And then it would have taken, like, a couple episodes, and she would have seen something else, and then, okay, maybe you're right, this kind of thing. So I like that it was just like, nope, she saw what she saw, and now she's a believer, and now she's an ally, like I said. Yeah. So, but we got to get back to the real confrontation, which I love, because when Lou brings Vic to the gas station, right? This is the gas station, kind of like convenience store / hardware house, whatever it is, that we saw before, because the old man that works there was the one who asked Manx when he was really disheveled, hey, are you the grandfather of the guy that they call is Mr. Christmas? Yeah, I think. Yeah, Father Christmas. Yeah. Well, yeah. And so we see this reoccurring character again, and they're back there. And they're like, oh, okay, yeah, we've seen this before. They use the phone, right? And Lou, again, being a great guy, is just like, there was a kidnapping, and like this girl was in trouble. We got to find this boy. Like, you guys have to help us. And he's like, okay. And so, the old guy calls the police, and he's just like, all this stuff's happening. And I love that reveal of when Vic finally gets a hold of Maggie, and she's like, you got to track him down. He's still got Craig. And she uses her tiles, and she's like, where is the Wraith? And then all it says is gun barrel. And she's like, what's gun barrel? And then Lou's the one who's like, oh, we're in gun barrel.
Yeah.
Da, da, da.
Yeah, so, yeah. That was like kind of a nice way. Yeah, of course.
Awesome setup. And then, of course, the Wraith just slowly drives in, which we should mention, because this was one of my favorite little touches, is that when Craig is in the back of the Wraith, he finds a crowbar.
Yeah.
And he's trying to get out, and he pierces the gas tank, which I love. And then that shot right after where Manx goes, right? And his nose is bleeding. I was like, oh, that's so brilliant.
Yeah,
man.
I mean, it's really, I love that too. Because I mean, we already know like him and the car are like one, but like it's really just like doubling down on that in a great moment. Like, the car is like bleeding out in a way, so he has to like fuel it, and you see him kind of start to lose that youth a bit. He's like bleeding and stuff. That's all just, like you said, a very nice touch. And so that's what eventually leads them to the convenience store, gas station, or whatever the hell it is.
Right. And so we get the confrontation, and I love that Lou takes charge, and he's like, do you have a gun? Get that baby. Or, Vic is also like, get the baby out of here. You guys go to the back. Like, you guys are in danger.
Yeah.
And what I love too is that, they ask, do you have a gun? And then the guy's like, yes, I have a shotgun and I have a pistol. I think he takes the shotgun. And then Vic is just like, this guy she just met who we trust immediately. It's like, you ever shot a gun before? Here's a gun.
Yeah,
and I was like,
gives it to him.
I'm like, great, Lou has a gun. So then we get into the confrontation that we've been waiting for, which is great. And it is kind of threefold almost, because Vic immediately threatens Charlie.
Well, it's not Vic, it's Lou. Lou's the one who
Lou pulls up with the gun.
He's the one who comes up to him with the gun and kind of diverts him away as Vic tries to get Craig out of the vehicle, which she can't. And like the entire time, this kid is like fucking taunting her and stuff. It's just like madness is ensuing, and I love that.
It was great about that too with the kid, because we had talked about how, he was really threatening with the whole house scene with the sleigh house, right? And he was like ramming his head into the window or the door.
Yeah. I forgot
So
to mention that,
when we see Bradley in the car, he's still like all bloody and stuff.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, he really looked menacing, right?
Yeah.
So we get to the point where, they can't get Craig out of the car. You know, Lou has got Manx at gunpoint, which we know is really probably not going to do anything. He's trying to work his little magic on Lou. He's like, Lou Carmody, you know, you always
I love it. It's like he's so like manipulative with his words. I love it.
Yeah, it was really good. So, and then of course, unfortunately, Manx has to get, you know, a foot up on Lou. Kind of knocks him out. She knows. Vic knows. I got all these names running through my head.
Yeah, there's so many people in this scene.
There was. And so she grabs the gas from the gas line, you know, pours it on the car, and then she's threatening him. And Charlie's like, come on, like, you know, that's not going to stop me, you know, like, what are we doing here? And I kind of like they built up the tension a little bit, not too much, because she was just basically like, yeah, I've had enough of your shit. And she just drops
she like pours the gun. Yeah, because Manx like takes the gun away from Lou. And then he's like pointing at her, and he's like in pretty like a desperate shape. And you're right, she starts pouring the gas on the car, and then she holds up the lighter, and then he starts to get like real freaked out. He's like, "What, you know, like what are you doing?
No, don't touch that. Yeah, we're good here." Yeah. So again, great, and then good special effects because as the car burns.
Yeah.
He just shrivels right up again.
Oh, it's great. But you know, we keep jumping around. There's so many great stuff that happens here. But actually, before that, Craig has to like punch. He cuts his way through to the other side of the seat because Vic can't get him out of the other side. And so like he sticks his arm through and he gets out, and then Bradley just like attacks him with his mouth. And so you see him like gnawing away at his arm. Like Vic's trying to get it in, or not get it in, but she's trying. to break the window, and like everything, and like this is all going on while like Manx is you know playing, you know, stick up with Jonathan Langdon, the Lou, and so that whole thing is crazy, and like Craig's just like, you know, get out of here, man, like you can't save me because he can't open the door, and the kids like. You know, chewing at him, and then
just at that moment. Yeah. Sorry, because the best part is the car's burning. Manx is out, right? Lou is knocked out, I think, at that point. She runs inside the car, tries to get him, you know, through the kind of chauffeur glass panel.
Yeah, that happens. Yeah, that happens before the car burns, though.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because that was what I was about to get to.
I thought it was while the car's burning, she tries to get him out. But she can't, right? Isn't that
No, she does. Yeah, that does happen, but that's like after. I believe
she can't get him out of the trunk. Yeah, I got that part. I'm just saying, like, it's way more desperate. Like, you'd think, okay, well, this is it. Manx is out. Like, just knock out the little demon kid and we're good to go. But yeah, it's tougher than that because there's like, you know, the car, the Wraith has got a mind of its own and like a dimension of its own. And so she can reach through and grab Craig. But as soon as she tries to pull him through that panel, he's like not there. It's just not happening. The Wraith is not allowing it, right? So I really like that tense moment of he's just like, nope, can't get out. And so he's like, you gotta leave, you gotta get out of this car, like it's gonna. And of course, sadly, kaboom. So
he blows up.
Yeah, which is, I think, a nice tribute to Craig. I think the character arc that we got with him, the journey, you know, how much we kind of fell in love with him near the end there. It was perfect. It was a nice ending.
Yeah,
I say nice, but you know what I mean.
Right. I mean, from what I will say is, I'm of two minds of this because Ashley Cummings' reaction as that happened is the other moment I was talking about that was phenomenal. Great like just her outcry. You feel everything. But that kind of goes into my other point, which is I don't think his death hit me really. because he wasn't really around that much throughout the course of the season. He would pop in and out, and I felt their relationship and what he meant to Vic and everything. But I was seeing everything through Vic's lens, not necessarily because I was attached to this character. And so the only reason I kind of felt something during that scene was because of Ashley Cummings' performance. She sold it. I was like, fuck, that was intense. That was just primal. And so kudos to her. All credit goes to her, because like these last 2 episodes, I mean, she just really is at a breaking point, and like her acting is showing that. And the especially in that moment, that is just such a it's horrible. You really feel what's happening to the character.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Anything else you want to talk about that climax?
But the climax, no. I mean, Manx is shriveled up on the ground. The kid and Craig are dead. Lou is alive, obviously.
Right. So now we're wrapping everything up.
Yeah, and then they kind of go into the epilogue, which is 6 months later. Or wait, no, I'm sorry. There is the funeral, and then there's 6 months later, right?
Yes, there is a denouement, denouement, because the scene of she and Lou in the hospital, right? So where he says hey, I'm into comic books. I believe all this stuff, because he saw what happened to Manx, and he's like, I really believe, and that's great. So we have another ally, and this is the funny thing, I thought it would have been easily a setup for a second season, because he's like, if you ever are in Colorado and you need a friend, here's my card. And he's trying to be all he's kind of hitting on her,
Yeah, he's totally hitting on her in the wrong moment. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And then great confrontation with her, where she goes in to see Manx, and he is death's door, basically, almost a corpse. But he's still alive. I think the sheriff, or whoever it is, says that his brain is pretty much like creamed corn, right? So he's got nothing going on anymore.
Yeah, pretty much. Now, correct me if I'm wrong. Is it before that scene or after that scene where she finds out that she's pregnant?
The nurse tells her she's pregnant, which is really interesting. I don't know how this works. Obviously, I'm not a woman. I've never been pregnant. But part of me was a little skeptical how that came up, because there's a moment later that we'll touch on where she says she's pregnant. And that would have been a great reveal. Yeah. The weird thing about the nurse coming in and be like, oh, make sure you take your vitamins, or something like that. There was a line. And, she's like, what? She's like, oh, you're pregnant in a couple of weeks. And I was like, was she not treated for something complete? Did they do blood work on her? It was how did they find that out? Right.
Yeah. So I'm that sure, was just medical jargon and whatnot. I'm sure they figured it out, because she probably did need blood work done, or transfusion or something. But I mean, and then it's it's Craig's, and then you're like, oh shit. And then it just from that point forward, it completely changes her whole path. I mean, really, this entire scenario changes her entire path, because as we see during the funeral scene, she's talking with the Craig's mom, I think, and then she even talks to Maggie a little bit after that, and she's like, I'm not going to go to RISD. It's I got to, find other people like us and protect. I mean, she basically becomes Batman. It's I'm now the sworn protector of all strong creatives in the world, and so on and so forth. It's like
Professor X.
Right. Well, and I mean, she still has to find Christmas Land, and confront all of those kids, because that's still around,
Right. So good setup for the second season with that stuff, because we know what her mission is. And as I mentioned, I thought Lou was pretty much done at the hospital scene, but they do have that 6 months later. And then we see the two of them together. Yeah. And he's like, this shit's really creepy. And she's like, no, come on. We got to follow through. Didn't see it was 6 months, right? Is that how long?
I think it was 6 months. Yeah. Because she was pregnant. She was.
Oh, did she?
Yeah, she was pregnant. Yeah.
Missed it. Okay. Interesting. Yeah. So before we finish everything off, that we got to talk about that funeral scene, because
absolutely,
once again, her parents were amazing, and she kind of makes up with her mom, which is great. And Virginia Cull, we've talked about a couple times. She's done very well to make Linda like likable sometimes, and then you hate her the next episode.
Yeah.
Evan, we've talked about his performance. We both love that guy as an actor. I love that moment where she goes up to her dad and he's just looking at pictures of Craig and he's kind of smiling and he's like, okay. And she just, I'm pregnant.
Yeah.
And he stops and he looks at her and he knows damn well what it means too, because this was one of their fears, right?
Yeah.
Both parents, where they were like, don't become us, don't get pregnant when you're 18, or, you know, like, and so the immediate reaction where he looks at her like, oh shit, you can see, like, literally hear what he's thinking when he looks at her. And again, you know, hats off to Evan, because that's hard to do. But he, you know, consoles her and just said, okay, you know, like, we'll take care of it. You know what I mean? Like, it's just kind of like, what, he doesn't ask what you want to do. He's like, you know, it's just kind of like, okay, we'll get through it. Right. Yeah. So I love that. Great way to kind of end both, I think, parental relationships, because it's been a roller coaster.
Yeah.
With
I mean, like, there's,
family.
yeah, I mean, there's like definitely stuff that, I mean, you know, I'm sure the family drama might come up again in the next season and such, because it is a big part of Vic. But I think ultimately she's going to face new issues. Because she's not in. Well, that was the thing during that conversation with Maggie. Maggie was like, "Well, I'm going to stay. I'm going to be part of the police force." And Vic's like, "I got to get the fuck out of here." And so that's when she goes to Colorado to like, I guess, you know, find Christmas land with Lou or something like that. So yeah, I mean, it's cool. It's like very much like an It kind of halfway point, you know, an ending of like It Chapter 1, which, you know, this is very much inspired by Stephen King and like an homage to Joe Hill's dad and whatnot. So yeah, I agree. I thought they did a great job of kind of like setting it up for the next season. You know where the stakes are, and then obviously we get that little like tease at the end. It's like Manx is alive, which I actually, because this guy's like restoring the Wraith, and so like when he like reignites the Wraith, it's like Manx is like reignited, and that he like pulls the poor nurse to him, and then he starts like talking about how shitty of a mom she is, and then she just like drops the blood everywhere. That was a great moment. And then the last shot is of course him smiling, which is just, that's great. What a great shot to end the season on. And
I hate to ruin that, but of course, like, we see Bing later on too. And Bing is working, right?
Yeah,
and he's working in a dental office. He's clean shaven, right? He's got those creeper glasses on, those like wireframe 90s glasses.
He looks creepier than he did. Yeah, it's crazy. He's like gone full like rogue gas mask man at that point. And so like he's going to, and because in the book, like, you know, he kind of goes off and does crimes of his own while Manx is detained, I guess you could say, incarcerated, even though he's like on his deathbed. And so like I hope they explore that in the second season, because there's a great scene with Bing in a church in the book where he's like confessing his sins, and he's like, you know, kind of toying around with the fact that like he's like trying to convince himself that everything they were doing was good, and then just like this shit happens to him, like a bird shits on his shoulder and stuff like that, and then he's like, you know, just says, you know, spiteful stuff. So that's a great scene that I hope makes its way over into either the second season or the third season or whatever. I have a feeling we're gonna see Bing do a bunch of just like commit a bunch of horrendous crimes, and I think the focus of the second season may actually be more on Vic's conflict with Bing, maybe getting him, you know, out of the equation or whatnot.
Yeah, could be. Yeah.
But anyways, that's it. That's the season. That's the season finale of season 1 of NOS4A2. Mike, what are your overall thoughts of the season? Were you happy with it? Do you think that because we did have some reservations early on? Do you think the show eventually like picked up steam and really delivered?
It was a well-crafted season. I'll put it that way, because we have often talked about necessary evils, necessary episodes. I never felt like there were 3 in a row of that where I would have just completely lost interest. We had talked about the beginning of the season we thought was a little slow at times, but you know, they redeemed themselves by the third one, and I was like, okay, now we're hooked. So they carefully, I think, balanced these episodes really well. The writing team, Jamie O'Brien, she would have been responsible for most of that in terms of pace.
She wrote a
lot
few
of
the
right?
episodes. Yeah, I mean, like she wrote the season finale, the gun barrel, and she also wrote Scissors for the Drifter, which was another great episode. So
we like that one. Yeah. So I think it was a very well crafted season. Wasn't phenomenal, but was not disappointing. And I think we had kind of touched on it just before. I had said, my only fear is that, obviously they made the season and they got the second season, but they didn't really know that, right? Because it was pretty much finished. I was like, if it was only one season, there would have been some storylines that had dead ends. And I think
absolutely.
Millie was the biggest thing where I was like, why was she there? Why was she introduced? Why did she pop in as a hallucination sometimes? If they didn't have a second season, we wouldn't have got more Millie, and I hope they obviously close it off. But I think the rest of it, they did perfectly, exactly what they had to do. And if this was only one season, 98% of the storylines would have been just fine, right?
I agree with you. I think you put it nicely. It was a really solid season. It wasn't the most spectacular thing I've ever seen, but I think the word that comes to mind is balance. This was a very well balanced season, especially for a first season. That's not always easy to do, because a lot of the times first season you're really finding the show's groove. What is this series going to be? And then you kind of the second season, third season, it really starts to get into its own. So I thought this show actually did a really good job of starting off strong, and showcasing the kind of the seasoned show running tactics that you would expect from a show that's been on the air longer than this one. And so that, all credit goes to Jamie O'Brien, Joe Hill, the writers, the directors. All very solid stuff here, and then also just another round of applause to the cast here. Ashley Cummings was incredible. Olafur Olafsson as Bing was also amazing. Jakara Smith, I have really come to love. I am a huge fan of hers now, and I can't wait to see what she does next. I still can't believe she's a first-time actress, and some of the stuff that happens.
Did you just find that out too? That she was a YouTube star?
I think I knew that. For a little, I definitely didn't know it when I first started the show, but when it got to some of those really emotionally draining episodes, she seriously impressed me. I think she's a real talent to keep an eye on. Obviously, Eben, Virginia, and then our main man Zachary Quinto, all really solid stuff. That is the one thing I think this show really benefited from, and it really bolstered a lot of some of the slower moments. It was the performances. The performances really just kept you engaged the entire time. So I'm like we have both said, we are looking forward to season 2. We are very excited to see what happens. I'm curious as to whether or not it'll release during Christmas or during summer. I think it's a great summer show. It's fun, it's thrilling and stuff, but also I can see it doing well during Christmas because of the themes. So
right.
There you go, guys. That is our recap of NOS4A2 Season 1, the season finale. Be sure to let us know your thoughts and opinions of the season finale down in the comments section below, and where you think the series is going to go moving forward with Season 2. Mike, thank you for doing this show with me. This has been a lot of fun. I can't wait to pick it back up again when we get our second season. Where can everyone find you?
Well, as always, you can find me on the major social. You can find me on Instagram at real.school, Twitter, and of course, the best kept secret on YouTube. So if you like movie reviews and all that kind of stuff, look for me there.
Yeah, there you go. Definitely go hit him up. And I should let you all know that this is not the last, recap show we're going to be doing. We are actually going to be starting a Pennyworth recap show. So for those of you who are interested in the new DC series, that's kind of like a Batman prequel, but it's not even related to Batman, but it's taking the Batman characters and making it this 60s sort of spy thriller kind of thing. I don't know. It's It's going to be fun, basically, is what I'm saying. We both watched the pilot episode. We really liked it. And so if you want to hear more of our recaps, you can check out our Pennyworth After Show, which should be going up a little bit after this episode. So, as always, guys, thank you for watching. You can like Film Speak, because this channel is now Film Speak. You can like Film Speak on Facebook just by searching Film Speak Official. Still working to change the Facebook name. Facebook is just being a giant boner right now. But anyways, you can search Film Speak Official on Facebook. On Twitter, it is _Film Speak in all lowercase. And you can subscribe to this channel for more insightful film conversations, television recaps, and you name it, celebrity interviews on our podcast, The Fourth Wall, all that good stuff. But lastly, if you like me specifically and you like what I have to say, give me a follow on Twitter at Griff Schiller. All right, that's going to do it for this episode of our NOS Recap 2 show, and we'll catch you next season. Take care.